Hello and welcome to my channel on human design. Wonderful that you've turned up and that you want to know more about human design. You've found out about it, you're at the table, you're in the game. And I want to talk about the process of moving and progressing through human design. So you're in the game. You look at your chart and you've received a reading or you've done your own research and you've had this idea of what you are based on what is fixed in the chart, what is colored in, and often when people are in a situation, or anyone really, when you've been beaten down, for so many years and you've developed coping mechanisms and ways to play the game that isn't your game. You've been born into a not self world with people who are running around doing all kinds of stupid things, and you're not in control of that. And you find your way to find your place in that. And you come to human design and you see in the chart the potential, that you have this and you have that, and there's so many wonderful things. And there's usually, because of all the repression beforehand, there is this sense of people that they oftentimes kind of grandiose their design. I'm this and aren't I great? Well, you are as a potential. You are as a potential, but it's not as Ra often said, knowledge is not power. It is your natural innate design you're looking at, and those channels that you have in you, they will always be in you. But look at all the white areas. This is where the progress has to happen. So when we look at the white areas and we think, okay, I've got an open route, I know that the general theme is I'm going to be running around all over the place, moving too fast, taking on too much, never giving enough time for myself to really relax into the life and move as I am designed to move in an easy way. Open routes aren't here to be involved in a stressful life, and most of them are. So you can get that. And you begin to see that. But then you've got the other open centers, and you've got gates, that are there that are turned on every now and again. So every gate that you have in an open center, think of it as a receptor, but also think of it as a trigger. And rather than think of it as, I've got a trigger in the 49, so the chances of there being abandonment issues is probably quite high. The fear of rejection amplified, and you found ways to cope with that. You've found ways to swallow down the hurt or whatever it may be. You've become oversensitive to people that are going to say no to you. And you can know that in a knowledge base. But then what if you have an open 17 and you think you're right all the time, and because you think of that, then you're going to get rejected more, because someone who compromises you that with the 1762 is going to show you the details you didn't think of, etc. There are triggers all over the place. It's not just true self, not self. It's not self tied up with a lot of different patterns and a lot of different coping mechanisms that have become habitual. And you've got this seeing the design before you. You go, well, I got to be more of that and less of this. You're not in control. I want you to know that. It's complicated. It's dense. Right? So let's say you've got an open 49, since we started on that one. So let's say there's been a long-term transit that's brought in the 19. And during that transit, you got married, for example. This is a channel of marriage and divorce. And when the transit goes, you find that goes as well, and then you have to re-encounter the abandonment issues in the 49. So it's triggers that come back again and again, and they can be reinforced by transits, they can be reinforced by people around you, It's complicated and it's not under your control. This is what I want to try and get through to you in this one. The centers are open, but they're not empty. They're full of past experiences that have been you trying to cope with a not self life in a not self world. So you don't really get to the point of them dropping through the knowledge. You get to the point of them dropping when you see them in action, when the reaction that you have isn't the way it used to be. You see, when most people meet in the not self, it's not a, you know, a relationship that comes about. It's a reactionship. You know, there people are reacting with their not self against someone else's not self, and there's all kinds of unnecessary things that get in the way, usually unpleasant. So it's really down to you. It's down to you to do your work and to realize that maybe, you know, a year or 2 years or 3 years goes by and a situation that would have triggered you or a person that would have triggered you. And rather than going, I'm not going to be triggered, I'm not going to be triggered, and having the mind come in there and try to fix everything in its way, it doesn't happen that way. You just find that you're not being triggered anymore because you've done your own work. And it wasn't really up to you to choose what part of your not self you work on. It happens. It happens through following strategy and authority. That is the one thing to hold on to through all this, because that will get you through it. You know, when you're in the process of healing or when you're in the process of deconditioning, certain things drop at different times. Certain things are encountered at different times, depending on the transit, depending on where you are in your life, depending on where you've moved to. You know, it's not up to you. It's something that happens, and you have to surrender to it by following strategy and authority. One of the phases we go through in the beginning is realizing that the keeping the old show going in your connections with others and in the way that you live just doesn't fit anymore. It's the first layer of the detachment from what is not you, what is not real, what is not in alignment with you, you begin to see. And that is also this sense of, you know, something's changing. Something's changing. I'm learning human design. I'm understanding myself more. I can't fit into the old model anymore because I don't want to play those games anymore. You know, it's boring, it's tedious, it's easily predictable, and it doesn't feel right. So you begin to change. There'll be a reaction from the others because you're not the same you that you were. And again, you don't know what part of the triggers are going to come up for you to have to face that. So when you're being triggered by an old pattern, perhaps with someone that you've known for a long time, perhaps with a situation that you've always avoided, and you find yourself in that, only then do you realize what's happened to you. You don't know until then. It's not up to you to choose the situation. So human design is mainly about changing the inner relationship that we have with ourselves. And in doing that, there is a change in the outer relationship. And this is what I want to bring to your attention today. If you can see that the chart, you're looking at a potential, but think about it as looking at it as if in a mirror. It's mirroring back. The chart will mirror back. The mirror will mirror back how you're actually living. It's a reflection. When we think in terms of reflection, we can think of reflectors, or we can think of the gate, which reflectors are fantastic at showing you what is for you. They can be if they're clear. But the 33rd gate, the reflection upon how your life has changed. You know, for example, if you're a projector with the 14th gate, and you know you haven't got a lot of energy to do a lot of things, but as soon as you come into contact with sacral beings, and we know they are in the majority, you find yourself doing so many different things. You know, doing the things that other people aren't doing because they don't recognize it's important, and it is, and you're doing it. You know, and then you find yourself knowing about human design, and you find yourself not doing it. You find yourself stepping back, you know, looking at it like a mirror, looking like it, well, this is my life, you know, I'm not here to be throwing energy away doing ploddy things. That's not who I am. But when you find yourself doing it and you catch yourself in the act of going, ah, you know, when you're tired and you realize you're doing it now, then you stop. You don't know what moment that's going to be. You don't know where it's going to be. You don't know who's going to be around you when that hits you. And enough of those, and bit by bit, you get used to not diving in. You get used to being able to stand your ground and people ask you and you tell them what to do and they do it. Things get easier, you know, by looking into the mirror, looking into the reflection of what's happened in the year with your experiment. You see how things have changed. You can check in every year or whatever, and you'll see things have changed because the life has got easier. You're not being triggered as much. The triggers are beginning to dissolve. And as a result of that, the life will begin to change. A lot of people, when they get into human design and they begin to explore, they may move house. They may move from one location to another. They may move away from an old friend set that was keeping them trapped and they've realized it. And you don't know what the consequences of that's going to be. And depending on you being correct or not, according to your strategy and authority, will depend on where you end up. You know, sometimes people break away and they go and create exactly the same thing again because it hasn't been cleaned, it hasn't been cleared, it hasn't been experienced and dropped. But you get to see it in the mirror. You get to see, so the life has moved in that way, but not that way. You know, the potential is there and it's coming out. Your potential is beginning to show because you're allowing it, not imagining it, not dreaming it, not thinking this is me now. It's like the potential that you're moving towards. These centers that are open and full of so many different triggers, they give you an opportunity, or they give us an opportunity to be able to see if they're a wisdom or a reactive trigger over time. And you cannot push that process. If you let go into the process, things come to you in a way that you could not have imagined. Our imaginations, we think of imagination as being, I can imagine everything. No, you can't. No, you can't. There are things that come out of the blue. There are things that you don't even know can come to you or that you can meet. So it is a kind of, Ra talks about it as watching the movie. You know, watch the movie, but to see that, you know, this is a potential. This mirror, it reflects upon you where you are in your life as the years go by. And that's a beautiful thing. And as the years go by, you realize that it is enough simply to be you in your life. And all the grandiose imaginations that you may have had when you first saw your chart, they're irrelevant, because it's better to be real and it's better to be in your life than any dream you may think is going to be better. There's nothing better than being you in your life. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. And if you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And I will be back again very soon with something completely different. Bye-bye for now.